Are we good to go? Yep. Okay. Hang on. All right. I'm happy to be back. I know that everybody's been patiently waiting for me to get this started again. I apologize. I am sick tonight. Not deathly ill like I've been in the past, but I do have a cough and a kind of a sore throat. So I apologize if I cough through this presentation. I am Kathy Ashcroft. I have been involved with poultry in one form or another since the 8th grade. My 8th grade teacher, my 8th grade science teacher, his name is Leroy Goody. He lives in Cache Valley here, and he had some of the most beautiful Bantam Cochin chickens that I had ever seen, and I mentioned to him how much I liked them, and the next day he brought me a dozen hatching eggs for me to put in my rickety old aluminum incubator that wasn't worth the money that we spent on it, and I hatched out one chick from those dozen eggs, and I was hooked on poultry and chickens. And started, he got me some more chicks that he had hatched out. And that started me on my journey of showing chickens and raising chickens. And I have been doing it off and on ever since then. I won't tell you how old I am, but it's been a fair number of years that I've been doing this. I have been the chairperson for the Cache County Poultry Show at the Cache County Fair. I am currently serving as the president of the Utah Fancy Poultry Association, which is a poultry club here in the state of Utah. And anybody is welcome to join this club. And if you join the club, you have access to the newsletters and everything that we send out. Anybody can come and show their birds with us. You don't have to be a member to do that, but there are some benefits to joining the club. So we're going to, I know in the past we've talked about poultry in general, whether it be backyard chickens or exhibition poultry. This series, we're going to focus on exhibition poultry. And by exhibition, I mean birds that are raised for the sole purpose of showing them in an exhibit hall. And it's a fascinating thing, and we're going to kind of get into it a little bit to see if you're interested in doing that, and to kind of take you down this strange but fascinating world of exhibition poultry. So to get started, I'm going to share my screen here. I think hopefully this doesn't get me out of, let me minimize this. All right. So if any of you have watched a dog show on TV, like I love to watch the American Kennel Club or the Westminster Club dog shows that they have on TV, where the best of the best get together to show their dogs and all of the work that they have put into raising and prepping their dogs for a dog show. And exhibition poultry is kind of the same thing. We spend a lot of time, we spend a lot of energy in raising the very best purebred poultry that we can get our hands on. So here is a picture of a nicely bred Chihuahua that is ready for show. And here is one that I like to use as an example of one that is not quite as well bred, still very lovable, but not necessarily ready for the show hall. So as we proceed here, I'm going to be showing you some examples of exhibition poultry versus backyard poultry. And I want to tell you that I have nothing personally against backyard poultry. I myself have chicks that I have bought from IFA, from feed stores, and they serve a very valuable purpose. but they are not necessarily exhibition poultry. And I will be showing you the difference here in just a minute. Let me back up one, I think. So there is an organization called the American Poultry Association, and it is a nationwide club. It also includes people from Canada and from South America. You can join this club, and it kind of helps you along the journey of raising and showing exhibition poultry. They put out a standard of perfection. This is my copy, my standard of perfection. It's from 1998, so it's a little bit older. There have been some changes that have been made. I'm currently waiting for the 2023 edition to come out. That will be the latest and most updated version of the standard of perfection. This is the American Bantam Association, which I also belong to. It only focuses on bantam poultry, where the American Poultry Association focuses on large fowl and bantam poultry. So this is the standard of perfection, very well used. From 2020, this is my copy of the American Bantam Association Bantam Standard of Perfection. This is one of the pages of the American Poultry Association, or the APA Standard of Perfection. So you open it up and it gives you examples of what these birds are supposed to look like. It also, so it has the male version and the female version. So these are all Wyandottes, which is a breed that I raise personally. I raise the white Wyandottes. So these are just examples of different varieties of what the Wyandotte type is supposed to look like, and then what each variety is supposed to look like. It also has a written description. I have gone in and highlighted the parts of it that I want to remember in my own personal copy. The standard of perfection is copyrighted, which means that I can't make a copy of this book and then send it out to whoever I want to send it out to. They have a very strict copyright on it. So I'm showing you this simply as an example of what is written in this book. So I have highlighted the description for the Bantam Cochin, which is another breed that I raise, and it goes through each section of the bird, and we'll get into this in more depth in future nights. I have COVID brain, so I forget words sometimes, but in the future, we'll go down the road of more descriptions of each section of the bird. This is the American Bantam, or ABA, description for the Japanese Bantam, which is another breed that I raise. So this is a much smaller, much more condensed description of this bird. It gives the weight of what the bird is supposed to weigh, and again goes through each section of the Japanese, showing what it's supposed to look like. So I'm going to show you some examples now of standard bred poultry, or show poultry, show quality, versus hatchery type birds, or the type of birds that you would normally get from a feed store. Again, with the understanding that I have no problem with people getting these backyard birds or the hatchery birds, but I also want to stress that if you go to IFA or Tractor Supply Company and you purchase chicks from there, you will probably not get the standard show quality birds that people have in poultry shows. These feed supply stores usually get their chicks from a mass hatchery, meaning that they are hatching out chicks in vast numbers by the thousands. And they do this so that they can supply people with backyard poultry that they can use for eggs and to have in their backyard flock. So their goal is to, I hope my internet doesn't go out. Their goal is to produce as many chicks as they can, not necessarily produce the very best chick that they can. They're wanting to get quantity over quality. So when you go into a feed store and they show you the poster of what the bird is going to look like, please remember that it probably will not grow up to look like that bird. Though they're showing you pictures from the standard of perfections, and the bird will resemble that bird in some way, shape, or form, but it is not going to be a show quality bird. It will serve the purpose of giving you eggs, and it will look pretty running around in your yard, but it is not going to be okay for use in a show hall. So this is a large fowl barred rock, and you can see the difference between this bird, which is a show bird, and this bird, which is a hatchery bird. Utility Rhode Island Red. She will give you beautiful eggs. They will be very healthy eggs. But you can see the difference between her and this show quality Rhode Island Red hen. Both birds should lay very well. That's the breed characteristic, is they are bred to lay eggs and to lay a large and brown egg. And both of them should do that. This one should lay just as good as this one, but this one will also do well in a show hall. Large fowl buff Cochin. You can see the difference between this one versus this one. This one is supposed to have the nice rounded tail. This one does not. A nice, what we call Asiatic head, very wide in the skull. This one is not. The color is better on this one, and that might have something to do with the photograph that's being used here, but you can see the difference between the two. This is a large fowl Cochin hen. This one is the hatchery type bird. This is the show quality bird. You can see how wide this bird's head is versus, it's hard to see in this picture, but it's more narrow. Everything about this bird is more narrow and long, as opposed to this one, which is supposed to be very round in all of its parts. Again, the barred rock, the white Cochin. This is a Bantam Cochin. Can you see the difference in this one versus this one? Rhode Island Red again. This is the male. Flat back. This one is actually not as flat as it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be horizontal all the way across here with no bump right there. This is still a show quality bird, but you can see the difference between this one and this one. Very short back that slopes, the tail comes up too high. They're supposed to have a brick shape, and this one doesn't have that shape that we like to see. Hatchery Cochin versus show quality Cochin. This is actually kind of a very nice little Cochin hen. Silkies. Silkies are very popular. Everybody wants Silkies. This is a show quality, a very nice show quality Silkie versus a hatchery Silkie. The difference also between these two is this is a bearded Silkie. This one does not have a beard, and that's fine. There is a variety of Silkie that does not have a beard, but you can kind of see the difference between the two of them. Wyandottes. See the difference between these two. This is a Silkie male show quality versus a Silkie male hatchery quality. The crest should cover up most of this comb. You should not be able to see the earlobes or those wattles. Everything should be hidden. I don't know how silkies see, but this crest should cover up most of the face. I apologize if you can hear my husband coughing. He's been sick as well. So this is an Old English pullet or a female under a year old. Very nice quality here versus the hatchery. Very nice show quality BB red. The BB stands for black breasted. So black breasted red, beautiful coloring on this bird. Also beautiful coloring on this bird, but still doesn't have the same type that we want. A white leghorn hen. So this, if you, a lot of people do buy the hatchery leghorns because they are phenomenal egg layers. They are bred to lay eggs. And this female should do the same thing. She should lay a lot of eggs, the same as this one, but this is also a show quality bird, a very nice show quality bird. This one carries her tail too high. She is lacking in the breast here. She's too narrow as far as the width of the body, which is hard to see in these pictures, but I can just kind of tell just by looking at the profile. Wyandottes. So this one, I raised these birds, and I actually have a male that looks very similar to this male, and he did very well at our last show versus this one here. This one actually has more of a Rhode Island red back, and he is very much lacking in the tail section. His comb is too big. He will protect his flock, but he is not a show quality bird, where this one is very much a very nice show quality bird. Polish are very popular as well because they have this fun little crest right here. This is a show quality Polish, a white crested black versus the hatchery Polish. Most hatchery Polish carry their tails way too high. It's called squirrel tail in the show vernacular, the show language. This is considered a squirrel tail. It's way too high, and this bird would actually be disqualified from a show because of that. Brahmas are beautiful birds. They're very large, very gentle birds, feathered feet, show quality again versus hatchery. You can tell a lot of difference here in the angle of the back and the fullness of the tail versus this bird right here. All right, that might be the last of those. So now I'm trying to figure out how I get back. This is always the problem that I run into. All right. So that's the end of what I have for tonight. But I do want to follow up with the fact that if you have your birds from one of the feed stores and you're just wanting to get started in exhibition poultry, it's a good place to learn. The birds they resemble show quality birds, even though they're not where you want them to be. It's a good place to start. So I don't want anybody to think that I have anything against hatchery birds, because I don't. They serve a very good purpose, but I also don't want you to think that you can walk into an IFA or a tractor supply company, pick a chick out of the brooder and take it to a show and have it win, because unless you're showing at a county fair where everybody else is showing hatchery birds, it probably will not do well in a show. I've got a couple of things here on chat. So question is asked, where can we find show quality birds? We're going to discuss that in a future meeting. There are some options out there, and I definitely want to get that information out to you if that's something that you're interested in. You can use backyard birds for showmanship in either your county fairs or at a if you were to come to a Utah Fancy Poultry Association show, we do showmanship competitions there. And yes, you can use backyard birds for showmanship in either one of those situations. It's because a showmanship competition is more about your knowledge of the bird, your knowledge of the parts of the bird. And so yes, your backyard bird would work just fine in the showmanship competition. Jenny has asked, what is the easiest bird? That is a very good question. Certainly there are birds that are much harder to prepare and get right for exhibition poultry. Probably the easiest, I would say probably the easiest is any of the feather-legged birds, the Cochins, the Brahmas. But there's Silkies can be easy if you get your birds from the right breeder. Sometimes large fowl are easier to work with than the Bantams. Bantams are just bred down versions of the large fowl. And we'll talk more about that in a future meeting as well. There's, for every large fowl breed that's out there, there is usually a Bantam version of it, which is kind of fun. But in the Bantams, there's not necessarily always a large fowl version of it. Silkies being a good example of that. Silkies do not have a large fowl version. Silkies are a Bantam breed, and that's all they are, is a Bantam breed. Seabrights are another one. Seabrights are fun little birds too, but they can be kind of hard. They do not have a large fowl version of the Seabright. So we'll discuss that more in a future meeting. Christine, I was advised to use Bantams for showmanship, but is it fine to use a larger size? We have Orpingtons. Yes. You probably have been advised to use a Bantam for showmanship just because it's easier to place on the table. As long as your large fowl is used to being handled and is okay being set on a table, is okay being held for extended periods of time while the questions are asked, then certainly I have no problem with large fowl being used in showmanship. What chicken is the best to show, and does it matter if it's a hen or a rooster? Again, what chicken is best, it's really up to you. You have to, I always tell people, you have to find a breed that speaks to you. So Cochins were my very first breed. They will always speak to me. They'll always be one of my favorites. Wyandottes, large fowl and Bantam speak to me. I will never in a million years show Leghorns because I think they're beautiful. They're beautiful birds, but they're flighty and they're just not a breed that speaks to me, but they do to other people. Is it best to show a rooster or a hen? Again, that depends. You can show, like last show I went to, I took 20 birds of different breeds, different varieties, males, females. So if you're just going to show one bird, it just depends on which one is your best bird. And it doesn't matter if it's a male or a female, just as long as you're bringing your best birds, the ones that are in the best condition, the ones that you've taken the time to bathe and clean. And we're going to talk about that in a future meeting, what it takes to prep for a show, because there is a lot of work getting ready for a show. Any other questions? Okay. Again, this was kind of a short meeting, and I apologize for that. But I didn't want to overwhelm you with everything that we're going to discuss. I wanted to just kind of keep this one very basic. What is exhibition poultry, and how do I get started in it? And show quality versus hatchery quality. And I hope you were able to see the difference in that tonight, because there is very much a difference. And also to stress the point that you probably will not win a show with a hatchery bird simply because they are bred for the quantity versus the quality. You can love them just as much. Please don't get me wrong. There's a lot to be said for backyard hatchery birds, but they will not win a show. Christine, is it okay to use the old standard book? The new one is too expensive. Yes, perfectly fine. Like I say, mine is still 1998. And they don't necessarily change the descriptions of the birds that have already been accepted into the APA or the ABA. They are always adding varieties, and they are always adding new breeds. So yes, I will buy the 2023 version when it comes out, but I still use my 1998 book a lot, and it's perfectly fine to use that. 9 times out of 10, everything that's in the older version is exactly the way that it's going to be in the newer version. Can I ask Christine what year the book is that you have? We'll see if she answers here in just a minute. The American Poultry Association has been putting out standards of perfection for a very long time. They are a very old organization, and so people have a lot of different. Some people buy the new version every time it comes out, so they have all of the standards that have ever been put out. But okay, so you don't have one. You don't have one yet. All right. Yes, perfectly fine to use those older books. Like I say, for the breeds that are the most common, the description has not changed and will not change, versus old standard versus new standard. So you're probably just fine to do that. Any other questions? All right, next meeting. Brandy, I'm not sure, did you want to do this every other week, or did you want to do it every week? What was your thinking on that? She might not be there. I'm not sure.
Sorry, go ahead, Kathy. I had a phone call.
Okay, no, I apologize. Is this going to be every other week like it was last time, or will we be doing every week?
Every other week is how we have it scheduled.
All right, and right now we kind of have 4 planned, maybe 5. So the next meeting we'll get a little bit more into what a show is, what happens at a show, what you can expect. In the future meetings, we're going to get into preparation for a show, like the bathing and the preparation of your birds for a show, and also what's involved in junior showmanship. And I'm hoping to have video of a young girl who's actually participated in the showmanship so that she can kind of share her experience with you, so that you can kind of know what to expect along those lines. We're also going to talk about judging and what a judge, how he chooses. Some shows are up to 2,000 birds in a show, and his job is to find the very best bird out of those 2,000 birds. And how on earth does he do that? So we're going to break it down step by step so that I can show you exactly how a judge picks the best bird out of 2,000 birds. It's a fascinating process. It's one that is taken very seriously, not only by the judge, but also by the exhibitors that are showing their birds. So we'll go into a little bit more on that. If anybody wants something discussed and you have questions on anything, can they email you, Brandy, and ask those
Yes.
questions? Okay. Email Brandy with those questions and she'll forward those to me so that I can include those in future meetings and get those discussed. So I look forward to this. It's exciting. I didn't cough as much as I thought I was going to, so that's good. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your interest, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.